Have you ever looked at the world today, at the incredible advancements in artificial intelligence, and thought, this is it, this is the future? Well, there's a new kind of illusion spreading across the global economy, a mirage so dazzling that even the most skeptical investors, economists, and politicians can't look away. They call it progress. They call it efficiency. They call it the future. But what if I told you that behind the shiny facade of artificial intelligence lies the most dangerous bubble humanity has ever built? A bubble not of housing, not of stocks, not even of debt, but of human productivity itself. This isn't science fiction. It's a pattern, one that repeats every single time machines begin replacing people. The Industrial Revolution did it. The Electrical Revolution did it. The Digital Revolution did it. And now the AI revolution is following the exact same script, only faster, deeper, and far more destabilizing. Because every time a civilization discovers a new machine that multiplies output, it also plants the seeds of its own collapse. The story always starts the same way: euphoria, expansion, unstoppable growth. And it always ends the same way: unemployment, inequality, social unrest, and the destruction of the very system that made the boom possible. AI is not rewriting history, it's replaying it at 100x speed. Let's start with the first revolution, the industrial age of the 18th and 19th centuries. Before machines, productivity meant people: farmers, craftsmen, blacksmiths. Value was created by hand. Then came the machines: steam engines, spinning frames, power looms. Overnight, one person could do the work of 100. The result? Explosive growth. GDP soared. Profits multiplied. Nations industrialized. But as the machines spread, something dark emerged. Millions of workers were displaced. We remember the Luddites as radicals, angry mobs smashing looms. But they weren't stupid. They saw the future we now live in. A world where machines don't just assist, they replace. The pattern repeated with eerie precision during the Second Industrial Revolution in the late 1800s. Electricity, assembly lines, and the rise of mass production once again unleashed a surge of productivity, but it also created overproduction. Factories could produce more goods than people could afford to buy. Wages stagnated, inequality widened, and within decades, the cycle collapsed into the Great Depression. You see, every wave of automation follows the same four phases: invention, expansion, saturation, collapse. The third wave, the digital revolution, began in the 1970s with the rise of computers. It promised liberation from labor. Instead, it trapped humanity in an invisible prison of algorithms, spreadsheets, and screens. Jobs didn't vanish. They transformed into digital servitude, endless emails, data entry, and corporate bureaucracy. Productivity rose again, but wages flatlined. Because when technology accelerates faster than the human economy can adapt, value concentrates at the top. A few own the code. The rest become the code. And now, in the fourth revolution, the age of artificial intelligence, we've entered the final phase of this 250-year cycle. Only this time, the machine isn't just doing the work, it's thinking. AI is being sold to us as salvation. Automation will free us from boring work. AI will make us 10x more efficient. AI will create new jobs we can't even imagine. We've heard this every single time, and every single time the jobs that disappear outnumber the ones that appear by a devastating margin. Let's look at the data. Between 1990 and 2020, U.S. labor productivity rose a staggering 62%, and worker compensation, it went up just 17%. Where did all that extra value go? To the top 1%, in the form of profits, dividends, and capital gains. That's the productivity mirage. Machines get smarter, but humans don't get richer. AI accelerates this dynamic to an extreme. Because unlike past technologies that replaced manual labor, AI replaces mental labor, the final frontier of human value. Writers, designers, coders, analysts, lawyers, No profession is safe. For the first time in history, the machine isn't just taking orders, it's giving them. Every productivity revolution before this had a limit. AI doesn't. It learns, it scales, and it improves on its own, compounding exponentially while human learning remains linear. And that exponential curve is what creates bubbles. In 2023, global investment in AI startups hit over $200 billion. By 2025, analysts project it could surpass $400 billion. Yet most of these companies are unprofitable. They don't generate cash flow. They generate hype. And hype is the oxygen of every bubble in history. We saw it in the dot-com boom of 2000. We saw it in the housing mania of 2008. Now we're rewatching it happen again, not with websites or mortgages, but with intelligence itself. Every revolution begins as innovation and ends as speculation. In the early 1800s, investors poured fortunes into railroads that never got finished. In the 1920s, they piled into radio and automobile stocks that went bust. In the 1990s, it was dot-coms. In the 2020s, it's AI. The same pattern repeats. A new technology emerges. Everyone calls it the future. Capital floods in, profits vanish, and a crash follows. Right now, companies are racing to label themselves AI-driven. Not because AI improves their business, but because it inflates their stock price. The word AI has become a financial spell, a trigger for instant valuation, regardless of reality. Sound familiar? In 1999, every startup added "com" to its name and raised millions. Today, every company adds AI and raises billions. But here's the brutal truth. Most of them will vanish. Because AI, like every prior technology wave, eventually hits the efficiency wall. The more efficient a system becomes, the fewer humans it needs. The fewer humans it needs, the less money circulates through the system. And the less money circulates, the more the system stagnates and eventually collapses under its own perfection. Economists call this the paradox of productivity. Every gain in efficiency ultimately erodes the demand that keeps the system alive. In other words, the snake eats its own tail. Take this simple example. A factory installs AI robots that can produce 10 times more goods with half the workers. Profits surge, but only temporarily. Soon, those fired workers stop buying products. Demand falls. Inventories build up. Prices drop, profits vanish. And the economy slows down, despite having record productivity. That's the paradox. Efficiency looks like growth until it kills its own market. Historically, societies solved this problem by finding new frontiers. After the Industrial Revolution, Britain exported its excess production through its empire. After the Digital Revolution, the U.S. exported its excess debt through globalization. But what happens when there are no more frontiers left? When the whole planet is automated? That's where we are now. Economists are calling it technological unemployment, a polite phrase that hides a brutal reality, the mass obsolescence of human skills. A 2024 Goldman Sachs report estimated that 300 million jobs worldwide could be impacted by AI automation. And those aren't factory jobs. They're office jobs, creative jobs, cognitive jobs. Professions once considered immune are suddenly vulnerable. Writers replaced by language models, designers replaced by image generators, coders replaced by code-writing AIs, and managers replaced by automated decision systems. It's not happening in the future. It's happening right now. And the irony? The very people building these systems will be among the first to be replaced by them. AI engineers are already training models to do their own work faster and cheaper. That's not innovation. That's self-destruction disguised as progress. And when millions of knowledge workers lose their relevance all at once, the consequences will ripple far beyond the economy. Because this time, we're not talking about blue-collar versus white-collar. We're talking about humanity versus code. So what's the solution? This isn't a call to smash the machines. This is a call to wake up, to see the pattern, and to demand a system where technology serves humanity, not the other way around. The Industrial Revolution gave us the capital class, the people who owned the machines. But the AI revolution, it's creating something far more dangerous, an algorithmic class, the people who own intelligence itself. In the 19th century, wealth was built on factories. In the 20th, it was corporations. But here, in the 21st century, wealth flows from data. AI devours data the way ancient empires once devoured colonies. The more data you control, the more powerful your algorithms become. And the more powerful your algorithms, the more value you can extract from everyone else. This isn't progress. It's the birth of a new kind of feudalism, digital feudalism. We, the users, are the new peasants. But instead of tilling the land, we're generating data. Every click, every search, every single word you type, that's free labor for the new algorithmic lords. They own the platforms. They control the models. They get to decide who gets seen, who gets paid, and who gets erased from the conversation entirely. This isn't innovation. It's economic centralization on a planetary scale. The top 5 tech giants now command more market value than the entire economies of most nations, and that gap is widening exponentially. This is what I call the AI Productivity Mirage, a world where wealth seems to be skyrocketing on paper while the real economy underneath it is being hollowed out. It's the same illusion we saw just before every major economic collapse, from 1929 to 2008. Let's look at the numbers. They don't lie. Global productivity is up, but global wages, they're flat. Meanwhile, global debt is exploding. In 2024, the world's total debt shot past $315 trillion. That's over 340% of global GDP. Governments are borrowing money just to keep up the appearance of prosperity, while corporations use AI to automate away real jobs. We're not in a boom. We are in a silent depression, one that's cleverly disguised by cheap credit, inflated stock valuations, and breathless technological hype. The very same forces that delayed the last great economic downturn after 2008, zero interest rates printing money, corporate bailouts, have now fused with AI optimism to create the final, most convincing illusion of all, that we can automate our way to infinite prosperity. But economies aren't machines. They're ecosystems, and any ecosystem will collapse when one species, in this case technology, grows without any checks or balances. Every revolution eventually ends in a correction. Every boom ends in a bust. And every surge in productivity eventually ends in a great reset. The timeline is already unfolding right before our eyes. Phase 1 was the hype from 2022 to 2024. AI became the buzzword of the decade. Companies rushed to slap AI on everything. Markets soared, and venture capital poured in like a flood. We're now entering Phase 2, saturation. From 2024 to 2025, we'll see those amazing productivity gains start to flatten out. Corporate profits will get squeezed and the layoffs will begin in earnest. Then comes Phase 3, displacement from 2025 to 2026. Jobs will disappear much faster than new ones can be created. With fewer people earning a steady income, consumer demand will weaken, and that leads to Phase 4, collapse, between 2026 and 2028. The AI bubble will burst, sending shockwaves through the labor market, the credit system, and even governments that have become dependent on tax revenue from the tech industry. Finally, we'll hit Phase 5, the reset, from 2029 to 2030. This is when society will be forced to rebuild around a new equilibrium, a point where human labor either finds a new kind of meaning or loses it forever. The trigger for this collapse could come from anywhere: a tech crash like we saw in the year 2000, a debt implosion like 2008, or maybe something entirely new: an AI-triggered financial contagion where trading algorithms go to war with each other until the entire system freezes up. Whatever the spark, the fuse is already lit. To understand why this pattern repeats, We have to look beyond economics and into human psychology. We don't just build machines to save labor. We build them to escape our own limitations. The steam engine conquered distance, electricity conquered darkness, computers conquered complexity, and AI is designed to conquer intelligence itself, the very last human monopoly. But there's a deep paradox hidden in that ambition. If machines can think better, faster, and cheaper than us, then what value is left that is uniquely human? And if that value disappears, what happens to a civilization built entirely on labor, wages, and trade? That's not just an economic question, that is an existential one. History shows us exactly what happens when human value collapses. Depression, war, a total realignment of society. Think of the 1930s, the 1970s, and now the 2020s. AI isn't just an economic force, it's a psychological event. It is the moment humanity collectively realizes it might no longer be the smartest entity on the planet. When that realization fully sinks in, the markets, the governments, and the social contracts we've always taken for granted will begin to fracture. Because the true foundation of capitalism isn't money, it's belief. And belief can shatter much faster than any asset class. Imagine a world where machines design, build, market, and sell products directly to other machines. A world where humans are no longer consumers, but merely spectators. That's not some dystopian fantasy. It's the logical endpoint of AI-driven efficiency. The moment AI systems can predict demand, produce the supply, and execute transactions all by themselves, humans become irrelevant to the economic loop. The economy no longer needs us. It sustains itself. We're already seeing this happen. In 2025, over 70% of all global financial trades are executed by algorithms. AI models are managing investment portfolios, setting prices for goods, and even writing the code that writes other code. The loop is closing, and it's closing fast. When the human economy finally ends, it won't be with a loud bang. It will just fade away. Productivity will rise, unemployment will rise, corporate profits will soar, and despair will deepen. Stock markets will hit new all-time highs even as the streets fill with people who can no longer afford rent. That's the AI Productivity Mirage, a glittering, beautiful surface over a completely hollow core. Let's call this what it really is, the final bubble of human labor. Because once intelligence itself becomes a commodity you can buy and sell, there's nothing left to financialize. You can't build a bigger bubble after AI, because AI represents the end of scarcity, the end of human necessity, and the end of economic meaning as we've known it. After this, there's no next revolution. There's only the aftermath. Think of it as the final winter of the long economic cycle. But this time, the purge won't just destroy wealth. It will destroy the very concept of work. The coming AI winter won't be a temporary downturn. It will be the fundamental restructuring of civilization around a post-labor economy, one where creating wealth no longer requires people. Unless our societies adapt, through things like universal basic income, new social contracts, or entirely new systems of value, the result will be unprecedented inequality and social collapse. History always leaves clues. The Industrial Revolution gave us Marxism. The Great Depression gave us Keynesian economics. The Digital Revolution gave us neoliberal globalization. The AI revolution will give us something new. But before we get to that something new, we have to face the reckoning. Because every time productivity explodes, humanity is forced to redefine its purpose. And that redefinition never, ever comes peacefully. It comes through crisis. The last time the global system was this out of balance, with mass debt, automation, inequality, and extreme overconfidence, was the late 1920s. The world thought it had conquered the business cycle, and then came 1929. Today we think we've conquered intelligence itself. History is whispering what comes next. But here's the final paradox. Every collapse also brings renewal. Every winter eventually leads to spring. The same technology that destroys jobs could, one day, help us rebuild value on entirely new foundations. if we can survive the transition. But that transition will not be gentle. It will test governments, markets, and every single one of us. It will separate those who can adapt from those who will be left behind. We are standing at the edge of the greatest transformation in all of human history, not because our machines are getting smarter, but because we are starting to forget why we, as humans, matter. The next few years will decide whether AI becomes our greatest tool for progress, or the final nail in the coffin of human purpose. Those who see through the productivity mirage, who recognize that real value still begins and ends with human meaning, will be the ones who survive the coming winter. The secret of every cycle is this: progress doesn't eliminate risk. It just hides it until it explodes. And when that explosion comes in 2026, 2027, or soon after, history will look back and see this moment not as the dawn of human liberation, but as the peak of human overconfidence, the final bubble before the Great Reset, the last illusion of work, and the beginning of a world where intelligence itself is no longer human. Thanks for watching. If this made you think, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that challenges the narrative. Stay curious,